Souths have scored just 4 wins from their last 8 games, but last week's emphatic victory over Curry was enough to convince coach Adam Bettridge the Lions are ready for the finals.
Curry were under strength, but at the same time we executed really well and we could have shut up shop at 30-4 at half time, but they went on with the job, which was very pleasing.
Souths are almost at full strength, with only Dane Cordner ruled out with a hamstring injury. It's a different story over at Macquarie. Blake Chaffee is definitely out, while Mick Moran, Adam Swadling and Blake Gallen will need to pass a fitness test tomorrow. Having conceded plenty of points last weekend, Macquarie coach Barry Moore has spent this week tightening the Scorpions' defence. The Goannas will take on Central tomorrow at Charlestown, having knocked off 3 top 5 sides in a row. Cessnock is now being compared with the 2013 Curry Bulldogs, who made the grand final from 5th. The players say they're doing it for coach Steve Kidd.
Ever since Kiddy mentioned that he was leaving, we all decided to try to give him a good farewell. So it's all coming right at the good end of the year.
Having overcome the loss of Tom Liddon in the halves, the Butcher Boys also charge into the finals on the back of 3 wins in a row.
We don't fear anyone, that's for sure. We really believe in our ability and we believe that we are a really well-rounded team.
In Group 21 Rugby League, Denman will face Greta Branxton in the grand final on Sunday. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
It's getting better. It's got a little bit of improvement to go, but we'll make a call tonight and see how I feel. Look, yeah, I guess it does weaken them in one sense, but whether that galvanises them, make them push on a little bit further, who knows? But we don't concentrate on that. We look at what we can do. We can't control what their team's going to be.
After an exodus of Hunter MPs and Lord Mayor Jeff McCloy's resignation, the people of the Hunter are calling for action.
People are really angry about what's going on in Newcastle and in planning and development in this city and in the wider Hunter region. They want the government to stop treating us like mugs.
The Stop the Rot, Shine the Light forum last week attracted hundreds, and that support has now swelled ahead of the Hunter Deserves Better rally in Civic Park next Saturday. Those behind the event say the views of the community have long been ignored, particularly the decision to run light rail onto Hunter Street, rather than continuing along the existing rail corridor.
For $90 million we can do the inner city rail bit, which the government equivalent is $460 million for that.
To move the rail corridor literally 20, 30, 40 metres in some cases, and in some cases just across the fence. That's a gross waste of public money. We have not been listened to.
The community is calling on the Baird government to adopt transparent planning processes that involve genuine community input.
We're getting hundreds of people, thousands of people, all ages, all backgrounds, saying yes, enough is enough. They want a fair go for this city. They think this government is out of control. We think there should be a commission of inquiry into how these decisions are being made.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Home to one of the oldest movie theatres in Australia, this weekend Dungog unveiled its newest festival.
We've got 2 theatres going. We've got 34 Australian short films screening down in the RSL, and then we've got 14 feature films screening behind us in the James Theatre here over the weekend.
The Dungog Film Festival today attracted every man and his dog keen to get a taste of the new version.
It's important to have a festival in a regional area that can really bring people in and allow us to, party as large as we would in a bigger city.
The festival has reinvented itself after going through some tough times. It still is largely film orientated, but it now has diversified into other things.
Music is what we're focusing on this year, and in terms of the food and wine of the region is a focus for this year, but we want it to be able to grow and change as time goes by.
One organisation that was showing its wares was the local branch of the Country Women's Association. In its 85th year, it's still going strong and talking the talk.
Are they the best scones in Australia?
Oh my gosh, they are, yes.
But it's the old-time movie experience that was all the buzz.
It's just so beautiful and country feeling about it.
I thought it was fantastic and it should go everywhere around the world.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
We have jazz happening in 6 different rooms, and it ranges from big bands to the man playing a guitar.
The Newcastle Rugby League semi-finals opened with a bang. The Goannas may have finished 5th, but they started on top against Central. Returning from illness, Kerrod Holland handed Cessnock the opener. The Goannas moved further in front when Corey Barber crossed for their second. The pressure of finals footy started to show as tempers flared. From the restart, Terry Collins got the Butcher Boys in striking distance before Nathan Dwyer put Central on the board for the first time. Cessnock started the second half much like the first, Joel Brown giving the Goannas a healthy buffer. A few minutes later, his brother Riley should have put Cessnock further in front. The Goannas made up for his mistake as Chris Pine crossed for the visitors. Jace Delaney then got the home side back in the game midway through the half. The big hits kept on coming, but the Goannas continued to hold their nerve, Sean Metcalf with his first try. A try to Cale Bowen gave Central hope of a comeback, but Cessnock would hang on to keep its season alive. Willie So opened the finals with a special welcome for his old club. But the Hawks would strike the first blow on the scoreboard thanks to Ben Harris. Hamilton backed that up with the opening try. A sweeping backline move ended up with Eric Vasu. A Hawks mistake handed Beaches possession before Michael Delore and Daniel Marshall combined to get the boys from Belmont back in it. When Willie Fraser barged his way over, Southern Beaches had the lead. A minute later, Matt Ferry was handed a yellow card. His opposite number, Martin Delore, made it look easy from the scrum. The signs looked ominous for the Hawks when Beaches crossed again to make it 26-13 at the break. Andrew Delore gave the boys from Belmont more breathing space not long after the restart. Hamilton finally hit back through Artie Ikonomou, but it was never going to be enough. Beaches continued to pile on the points. Var Taloliva scored his first. Tyler Rossell made it a bigger mountain for Hamilton to climb as Beaches set up a meeting with Wanderers.
Just after 3 o'clock, an afternoon of hang gliding over Newcastle's Bar Beach ended tragically. A man crashed first into power lines and then into a home on Memorial Drive. Police and ambulance responded a short time after, but sadly, he couldn't be saved. Now, it's unsure exactly what caused the accident, whether it was equipment failure or if he lost control of the hang glider, but it's something police will be looking into.
The occupants of the house were at home at the time. They were at the rear of the premises, so they did not see anything. They're quite shaken up.
There were lots of bystanders shocked by what happened. It was an incredibly busy day here, both in the sky and on the beach, with locals enjoying the sunshine on the last day of winter. Now, police are yet to release the identity of the man, but what we do know is that he was a well-known member of the Newcastle hang gliding community and that the group is absolutely shocked and devastated by the news of his death. Labor hasn't missed a beat. Ever since the dramatic departure of Andrew Cornwell from Charlestown and Tim Owen from Newcastle, Labor's Jody Harrison and Tim Krakenthorpe have been in campaign mode. But now some new and more familiar faces are coming out of the woodwork. Following weeks of speculation, Newcastle councillor Michael Osborne today confirmed he wants to be the first Greens MP Newcastle's ever had.
It's important that Newcastle has a representative who will stand up for their interests, who won't be involved in dirty politics or dirty planning decisions.
Standing against him will be Stockton's Jacqueline Haynes, who, unlike Mr Osborne, believes the revitalisation of the CBD is critical critical, and in light of recent events at the ICAC, her campaign schedule will be available online.
I'm quite a believer in open governance, so my campaign is unique in that it's an open campaign, so transactions in and out of bank accounts are visible, as well as meetings.
Interest is also growing in Charlestown. Jane Oakley has been endorsed by the Greens, a national rally in Newcastle, the platform for her first day of campaigning.
I also think that it's time that the community was represented in politics, and I like to see a fair go for people in the community.
And as an independent, there's Luke Arms. Like most candidates, he believes revelations at the corruption inquiry may work in his favour and also form part of his campaign.
What I'm reading is a lot of disillusionment with the big parties. I think a big area to challenge would be the influence of big money on decision making.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
The game was only a few minutes old when Michael Kantorowski put the Jets in front. Jason Cowburn went close for Western, denied by a great Solari save. Midway through the half, Connor Evans found the equaliser for the Bears. Western had several chances to hit the front, but they went begging. The Bears started with another opportunity after half-time. Zach Snedden couldn't convert. The young Jets quickly made them pay, Tom Waller with a tap-in to make it 2-1. But the game was far from over. Evans earned Western a penalty, but Nathan Morris could only find the crossbar. The home fans didn't have to wait long for a goal as Michael Ryan drew the Bears level. Western had the momentum, and when Ryan grabbed his second, the Bears had the lead. 3-2 was how it stayed as Western booked a place in the grand final.
Adam Perra doing what he loved most, an experienced hang glider who's been soaring above Newcastle skies for 2 decades. But tragically, his greatest passion was what killed him. Yesterday afternoon, while trying to avoid another glider, he spiralled into power lines, then into a home on Ocean Drive, dying instantly. These, his closest friends, and this secluded spot in Merriweather, one of Adam's favourites to leap from.
Still trying to get our minds around it. You know, this guy was at the top end of his game, but was also our brother. He was our closest friend, and we loved him, and we miss him heaps.
7 billion people.
Yeah.
If they were all modelled off Adam Perra, it'd be a fantastic world.
His death sending shockwaves throughout the entire hang gliding community.
There's guys who can fly a long way. There's guys who can do aerobatics. There's guys who can land at the trickiest landing spots. Adam was the best at all of it.
a hole in the sky, and at the Hamilton Fire Station, where Adam served the community as a firefighter for 14 years.
Losing Adam tragically like we did yesterday is going to be very hard for us to fill. Yeah, they say it quite easily sometimes, but Adam was actually one of the best.
The experienced pilot had cheated death once before. In 2009, he suffered 9 broken ribs, a collapsed lung and several fractures when his equipment failed near Manila in northwest New South Wales, just months after his wife passed away from breast cancer. But he bounced back, telling the whole story on his blog. Adam was also a competition pilot who had spent time flying all around the world, but it was here at his home cliffs where he enjoyed spending time in the sky the most. Exactly what went wrong yesterday is still being investigated by police, but one thing's for sure, his tragic fall is not how he'll be remembered in Newcastle. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
It means that children who are living in extremely difficult circumstances that most people would not begin to even contemplate, are not being seen because of vacancy rates.
For little Jack and his new furry friend Mr. Busy, this is a sweet ride. But you don't need a pimped out ride. Cycling advocates say all it takes is a nice piece of concrete to get more of us on our bikes. An ambitious plan has been launched to create a cycle-safe network, 250 kilometres of dedicated cycle corridors across Newcastle and Lake Macquarie.
This is the most cost-effective way to take 10% of traffic off the roads.
And help cyclists avoid tussles with traffic.
More people want to use public transport, more people want to cycle. What we need to do is to put the things into place to enable that to happen.
At $75 million, the groups behind the plan say it'd be money well spent, insisting the safe pathways would be well used. Statistics already show 5% of people living near the popular Maryville cycle path commute to work by bike.
Because they know they can ride a couple of blocks, get onto a safe, attractive cycle path and get into the city. Whereas the average across the city is less than 2%.
Cycling enthusiasts say that's an obvious benefit to both traffic flows and the environment. But perhaps the biggest winner, health. A startling 72% of Novocastrians don't get enough regular physical exercise. That lack of activity can, of course, lead to serious problems, including obesity and heart disease.
In general practice, we're often tackling these things one thing at a time, but I see this cycleways network as a kind of prescription for the whole of Newcastle.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
There's a whole process involved in what they're doing today, a whole project design element that the students have to do to get behind and create a really fast car, but also a car that presents really well to the judges.
So we're like, hey, lights and smoke, let's do it.
Faced with a hostile Greater Branxton crowd, the Denman Devils were always going to find it difficult to record back-to-back Group 21 titles. That task became even harder in the opening minutes. Some quick hands down the left-hand edge saw Greater in space, Mitchell Bird opening the scoring. Denman was forced in goal on its very next set. That saw tensions boil over. But the Devils' defence held firm. At the other end, a grubber off the outside of Blake Duro's boot saw his halves partner Gary McKeon level the score at 6-all. The home side was dealt a blow when hooker Adam Gresh was injured in a tackle, leaving the match a short time later. That proved to be a turning point. Denman looked like a different side in the second half and appeared to have hit the lead, only to be called back for a forward pass. A drop ball from Devil centre Andrew Nichols saw Josh Griffiths gain possession and the lead for Greater Branxton, the score 12-6. But again, Denman hit back. A well-worked set play down the right-hand edge saw Nichols with a chance to make amends, barging his way over the line. An offload from fullback Jake Green sent a charging Griffiths in for his second, and with minutes left in the match, Greater was in front. But with 1 minute left on the clock, Duro chipped to the corner for Brock Smith, who scored untouched. That set up Duro with a kick from the sideline to send the game into extra time, but while it was on target, it fell just metres short, giving Greater Branxton a thrilling win.
It's one of those things you sort of dream of as a kid, to have those opportunities to, win games or win grand finals, and, today wasn't one of those days, but yeah, unfortunate.
The Colts turning the table on last year's grand final outcome.
From that point of view, it's really good. It's satisfying, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, the 17 blokes or 20 blokes worked hard all year and got us where we are today, and their ethic paid off in the end, I suppose.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
We got my original race number from Lightning McQueen, the Disney character, and standing in the middle of this arena, I actually feel like Lightning McQueen. It's quite daunting to see how large this place is and how many people it's going to accommodate.
Drew Jones fronting court for the second day of his hearing, accused of grabbing a police officer by the groin when he was being restrained. The alleged incident took place when a brawl started between Jets and Western Sydney Wanderers fans at Hunter Stadium in December last year. Just one witness was called to the stand today, Jones's friend Matthew Vandenberg, who filmed the footage being used as evidence on his mobile phone. Mr. Vandenberg said he started filming because he knew something was going to kick off and that he thought police and the riot squad used too much force. The accused, the officer who was allegedly assaulted, and several police officers gave evidence at a hearing in April this year. The officers all said they heard the words let go" used when the alleged victim was trying to restrain Joes. In closing submissions, the police prosecutor said that the officers weren't perfect witnesses, but there were also no major inconsistencies, and that means that their evidence wasn't tailored or manufactured. But the defence argued that the sequence of events described by the victim didn't support the parts of the video that are clear. Magistrate Robert Stone will hand down his decision next week. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Labor's high visibility by-election campaign is rolling on. John Robertson and his political backup singers this time humming to the tune of flashing school zone signs.
Despite the fact that this government has been very fast at rolling out speed cameras, they've been very slow at rolling out flashing lights.
But it wouldn't be a trip to the Hunter without inevitable questions on Newcastle's heavy rail line. John Robertson ready to reverse the truncation, denying it'd drive investors away.
The rejuvenation does not solely rely on the removal of the rail line.
An issue new independent candidate Sophie Mill will have to get her head around. The artist and author already forced to fend off questions about her time working with disgraced former MP Tim Owen.
I don't think 4 months out of my 44 years or 45 years is going to make a big difference. Obviously, I'm not going to do what we've just seen. The reason I'm standing is through honesty.
And with the current absence of local political representatives, the Greens are trying to delay the introduction of a bill until after the by-elections, which would reverse controversial TAFE funding changes.
It's appalling that we're now in a position where, as Hunter TAFE sits on the verge of a catastrophe, there's no voice in Parliament for them.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Getting koalas back into their natural surrounds is an important job, and it's become even more so now that carer numbers are at an all-time low in the Port Stephens area.
We've had a very, very busy winter season, which is unusual, and it's had our carers really stretched. That little bit extra help takes the burden off the group as it is.
Dog attacks, disease and bushfires have kept volunteers flat-strapped.
Koala numbers are declining, which is pretty typical for a developing area. We have small pockets of habitat that are being isolated, and that's actually causing problems with disease.
Jay Tyndall has been a carer for 10 years, and for the last few months he's been nursing 4-year-old Malcolm back to health after he was hit by a car.
It's an actual achievement to see him released instead of being like euthanased from a car accident is a big achievement.
Releasing the sick and injured back into the wild is the project's aim, and today that day arrived for Kent. Now ready to face the wild again after he was attacked by dogs in March.
He's a bit of a buffhead. He's a typical guy, and as long as you give him food, sleep and drink, he's fine. It will be really good if I don't see him again, and that means he'll have a good life.
For more information about becoming a carer, visit the Hunter Koala Preservation Society's website. Michael Kane, NBN News.
I'd like to raise about 30 grand. I'm up to nearly 15 at the moment. Well, I wanted to go to the nice warm beach. So I thought I wanted to cross the state line. So as soon as I got there, I'm just going to cross over and I'm going to stop there for a little while.
Their season may be over this weekend, but the Knights had plenty to smile about at training this morning. Saturday's 30-point thrashing of the Parramatta Eels marked 4 straight wins at home over teams that are all in line for finals football. Since the Knights' own chances of making the top 8 have ended, the side's produced its best football all season, and the players say the reason for that is simple.
We just spoke about going out there and playing for each other and finishing the year off on a high and just really more or less enjoying our footy, and that's what we did.
To continue their winning ways, they'll have to overcome their bogey team in the Dragons this Sunday on Old Boys Day. That will be no easy task. The last time the Knights beat the Dragons at home was back in 2003. To add to the occasion, it will also be Wayne Bennett's last game with Newcastle. Knights legend Mark Hughes was among those watching on at training today. The meaning of Old Boys Day is something that isn't lost on the players.
Coming up from the juniors, you just look up to them, and then be able to represent yourself on the field, but representing the past, and I'm pretty big on it, and I like going out there and representing the culture and what Newcastle's all about.
Sunday will also act as a fundraiser for the Mark Hughes Foundation, with a remembrance service to be held at half-time for those who have lost their brain cancer battle.
It's a massive day, probably the biggest day of our home season, and to be part of that is fantastic.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News. After conceding inside the first 40 seconds, Westfield Sports High School missed a golden opportunity to level the score. However, it didn't take them long to make amends, Princess Ibini with the volley. They looked on target to score another, but Women's Jets squad member Hannah Southwell tipped it over the bar. The defending champions Hunter Sports dominated possession in the second half and soon were back in front. Ashley Brodigan with a wonder strike. Westfields did their chances no favour. Goalkeeper Angela Petrosevich was ruled to have carried the ball past the 18, and from the free kick, Kobe Ferguson made them pay. And that's the way it stayed. Hunter Sports 3-1 winners and into the final. Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
Very dangerous, rough seas, and surf conditions are just out of control.
So you don't necessarily need private health insurance to come to the unit. If you do require admission, then you would require some level of private cover.
The by-election for the seat of Newcastle now a 5-horse race, joining Labor, the Greens and 2 independent candidates, another independent, former Hunter Business Chamber President Karen Howard announcing her intention to run.
I'm hoping for community support so that I can continue on a lot of the work that people have expected to see in the city.
Her decision ending her time on the boards of Hunter Medicare Local, the Hunter Development Corporation and the New South Wales Business Chamber. While some reserve concerns about her siding with the Liberals, Ms Howard is quick to spruik her ability to work with both sides of politics.
I was appointed to the board of Hunter Development Corporation by the then member for Newcastle and Minister for the Hunter, Jodie McKay, and reappointed under the Liberal government 3 years later.
And she's right behind the decision to cut the rail line at Wickham.
I want to be really clear though that when it comes to the heavy rail corridor, in my view, it absolutely must remain in public hands.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
52% of people who contract Ebola won't survive. Already, the disease has claimed more than 1,500 lives. While the outbreak might be a world away, it's hitting close to home for Newcastle's large West African population.
As we ring, our people tell us how they are dying. They don't even have gloves. They don't have the chlorine to put in the water to wash their hands.
Oh, it's bad. I just got the news recently that one of my cousins passed away from the same Ebola.
Lambert Sarpor felt compelled to help and asked his community elders to act.
I think it's my bound duty to, raise awareness about it, because even though I'm not affected by it right now, but there's heaps of people who are.
The community decided to join forces with the Red Cross to raise funds to fight the disease's spread.
This is an SOS call. Please, Newcastle, come and help us.
And the money raised from the Red Cross's Ebola appeal will go directly towards providing West Africans with life-saving medical equipment like gloves and face masks, which can help prevent the spread of this deadly disease. The sisters at Penola House are also collecting donations.
Our hope at Penola House is that we will be able to collect some of this protective clothing.
Donations can be made via the Red Cross website. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
Warren Smith has spent almost 40 years of his life watching over this stretch of beach, but starting to take its toll on the 60-year-old. So the Nobby's Beach icon has decided to leave his tower.
The body's telling me it's time to go. I've had a fantastic career with Newcastle City Council and enjoyed every moment of it. And it's just time to put the hat up.
A pioneer of his profession, Warren has seen it all. In 2007, he was part of the team that pulled the crew of the Pasha Bolka to safety. But he says it's not the adrenaline-fuelled rescues he'll miss the most. It's the people.
Over the generations, I've seen families come through, and now their children's are coming through. So it's mainly the people here, and of course the beach itself. It's a beautiful beach, and it's just it holds a very special part in my life.
But that familiar face will still be around. A grandparent, Warren is planning to spend quality time with his family at the beach he loves. While as co-founder and organiser of Surffest, he will still be heavily involved. His last day in uniform will be September 19, and Warren wants locals to come along and farewell him into retirement.
It'd be nice if I could say goodbye to a few of the people that have been a part of my life over these years. Over the next 2 weeks, it'd be fantastic.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Being in a school that's from preschool to year 12, it's watching the students' achievements, and they've been very successful, and I'm just so proud to be involved and be associated with them.
It's a victory Andrew Dote cherishes most. Last weekend's Queensland Open win puts his name on the trophy amongst some of his idols.
Yeah, I saw all the names on the trophy at the start of the week and I thought, geez, it'd be nice to get my name on there. So to have my name alongside them, it's a dream come true.
The Newcastle-based golfer started the final round 6 shots behind the tournament leader, but blew the field away down the final stretch, shooting a 5-under 67. And not seeing the leaderboard seemed to play into his hands.
It's that kind of course where if you make a birdie and the leaders make a bogey, you can pick up shots very easily. So fortunately for me, that was the case, and I only knew I was leading in the 18th fairway.
Dote was back in the Hunter today, preparing for another big season on the Asian Tour, a springboard for another shot in Europe.
I haven't played an Asian Tour event for 3 months, so hopefully get back over there and pick up where I left off earlier in the year. That's the goal for next year. I'll go back to European Q School in November this year and hopefully get back over in Europe next year.
The Queenslander has been a quiet achiever and is now happy to call the Hunter home.
I've been down here for 6 or 7 years, probably under the radar a bit, but I'm proud to be living and called an Novocastrian now.
Michael Kane, NBN News. She's an up-and-coming 10-pin bowler from Raymond Terrace. Meet Janet Hunt. The 18-year-old is burning up the lanes with a simple strategy.
Play the lane, do your job, go home.
After striking it right for New South Wales at the National Championships, she's now made a 12-person national squad that will head to Kuwait in February to compete at the Asian National Championships.
I bowl with a few of the players that have already made the team alongside me. So yeah, it'll be good to have, especially a few that made the team are really close friends, so it'll be good to have them there as well.
In her final year of school, mixing training and study hasn't been easy.
HSC this year, not long to go now, but my school, Hunter River High, has made it amazing. Understanding, when I'm juggling assessment tasks.
Becoming a permanent fixture in green and gold squads is the goal.
As long as I throw the ball well, I'm happy. Hopefully win a few tournaments. Make a few more Australian teams, I think. Going into youth and adults, I'd like to play at the World Cup sometime in the future.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
This is all that remains of Jimmy's Beach, the coastline ravaged during yesterday's storm and the boulevard closed after a section of roadway collapsed just metres from homes.
This is the worst I've ever seen it. As you can see, I think that if this was left and this storm kept going for, let's just say, another week, I think the road would go. I don't think there's any question about that, the road would go.
Every time the southerly winds hit the coastline here, the beach simply disappears into the ocean.
It's a situation like Byron Bay and many of those areas on the coast that just have degradation of sand and nobody seems to know what to do with it.
Residents say just last month 400 truckloads of sand were dumped here to restore the beach after the last storm.
Something really needs to be done about it, and I think council's expenditure on sand has been a waste of space and waste of time. They really need to tackle the problem as it stands, and I think the only way is the groins. I've thought you can either have fixed groins or you can have mobile groins, and I think that would be better.
The Mile River Action Group says the sand ends up at the mouth of the Mile River and that creates another host of problems. The group is renewing calls for a permanent dredge at the river.
They want the river entrance cleared so the river can clear and in clearing that can take the sand from the blocked river, pump it back up onto Jimmy's Beach and hopefully save Jimmy's Beach from this constant erosion.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
It's important for us to understand exactly what's happening along the length of the route so that when we go further down the tender process we can make sure we have as much information as possible.
Coal, it's the lifeblood of the hunter, and according to the New South Wales Minerals Council, the industry is experiencing its worst conditions in 20 years. Newcastle's export coal prices are now at their lowest level since the global financial crisis. But today at the Newcastle and Hunter Region Economic Development Forum, there was some optimism.
And I think we've seen both from the federal government and the state government a new and encouraging recognition that regional areas really are what the future of the nation is based on.
Regional Development Australia's Hunter Chair, Dr Gay Hart, says that investment must continue if the region is to prosper, a demand the Minister for the Hunter assures will be met.
Our commitment to infrastructure and investment and the future growth of the Hunter is unwavering. We will continue to invest in the region.
Dr Hart says opportunities in agriculture are being overlooked.
We're known for our wine, we're known of course for our equine industry, but what we haven't really done is maximise the return we can get from the other sectors of the agricultural business.
While targeting the Asian market when it comes to tourism has the potential to boost the Hunter economy by $1.6 billion.
We are getting much greater recognition as a destination. Concerted effort will see that come about and we'll benefit from it.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's great that we can get some people together today and celebrate what is a really important milestone for us in 80 years in Newcastle.
It was the complete fine dining experience, a chef-prepared meal by candlelight, live music adding to the atmosphere. Soul Cafe's regulars were surprised to find their Thursday lunch date had taken a sophisticated turn. While grateful to receive the usual offerings from donated produce, today was something special, with a menu listing some fancier food options, beef Wellington or chicken supreme.
We've gone out and bought a whole lot of food. We've prepared meals that they'd get at a restaurant. We're serving them at their tables, offering them drinks, and it's really exciting. We're all so excited. We're having the best time.
Volunteers were kept busy catering for around 100 people who savoured every gourmet bite.
It's really good.
I think it's good today, very good. It's good every day.
Soul Cafe has been in Newcastle now for more than a decade and relies on volunteers and sponsors to keep serving up assistance to the needy.
There's so much negativity in the world, and we just wanted to do something positive today and just to make a difference, something for them to talk about.
This 5-star Thursday went down a treat.
I was more shocked at that. You know, it'd be different if I was playing really bad and I wasn't keeping up or anything like that. If that day comes, I'll retire, but it's not coming yet. I'd look good in red and white, I reckon.
It was a horrible moment in the career of Scott Neville. A torn anterior cruciate ligament against the Melbourne Victory last December ended his season.
When it first happened, I was angry. A lot of different emotions went through.
The 24-year-old has now finished rehabilitation and is keen to add to his 27 appearances for the club. Last weekend marked his return to the pitch with something special.
Last game, got the first 45 minutes out of the way and started off a bit shaky, but it felt weird. I don't usually score many anyway, so scoring my first game back was always a benefit.
The pre-season tournament in North Queensland saw Phil Stubborn's side struggle in early matches against A-League opposition.
I think it shows where they are in their pre-season and where we are, and in a way it's positive because it shows us what we need to do to get better.
The Jets have missed the finals in their last 4 campaigns, but hopes are high this time around.
This year we have to concentrate throughout the whole season to make sure that we're guaranteed a spot in not only the top 6 but top 4.
For Scott Neville, the new season can't come quick enough.
And I'm just happy that I'm back playing and doing what I love to do.
Michael Kane, NBN News. So far, it's been a year to remember for Wanderers coach Todd Loudon, and it's got even better. From next season, he'll take up an assistant coaching role with Super Rugby club Melbourne Rebels.
An opportunity and with a young dynamic team again and a real development focus. It kind of came out of the blue. It came very quickly, so yeah, had to think strong about it.
The two Blues had plenty to celebrate last night, flanker Ben Ham winning the prestigious Anderson medal.
He's brought, I suppose, another dimension to the team, his work rate and the way that he, I suppose, carries the ball.
This Saturday, Wanderers face Southern Beaches in the major semi-final, and they haven't had it all their own way in previous encounters.
They've been our hardest and most physical games through the regular season, so it's not surprising at all. I've got some very good players. But so have we, so it should be a cracking final.
While in the elimination semi-final on Sunday, Hamilton take on Merewether Carlton, who are in top form after rolling the defending premiers last weekend. Hamilton's captain Steve Lamont knows his team will have to be on their game against the Greens.
They're coming off a good tight win against the Tars on the weekend, so mate, we've got to be ready for it.
Michael Kane, NBN News.